Hello again, thank you for joining me for part 7 of the Kubala Chronicles. Let's go! So we left off part 6 with Kofi, Nino, King Atahenye and Jean posting on their Facebook that they have a new wife. And they post a picture of a young lady outside of the airport being hugged by Nino, and they're calling her Lady Safi. So we find out that Lady Safi's name is actually Aaliyah Johnson, and she is from Oklahoma City in Oklahoma. In her post, Jean talks about how submissive, how obedient, and how teachable Lady Safi is. She says that she worked tirelessly behind the scenes, proving herself and doing whatever it took to be declared one of King Atahenye's wives. And then she made that journey by herself and came all the way to the UK to meet this couple. Mind you, Jean is in her 40s here. Nino is younger than Jean. I'm not sure how far by, but if she's in her 40s, he's in his late 30s. The first thing I noticed when I saw that picture of Aaliyah was how young she looked. She just looked like a baby, and just immediately my heart sank, and I just thought, what is she doing here? What is she doing with these people? You could just tell that she is somebody's daughter, somebody's baby. How has she got herself embroiled with these degenerates? I'm sorry, because she's very clearly very young. So I found Aaliyah's TikTok page, which is kind of heartbreaking because her posts just really paint her out to be just another normal girlie. She evidently sort of was like spiritually minded. She was posting about things like angel numbers and nature and wanting to manifest a better life for herself. So she was clearly like spiritually inclined. At some point, she's made contact with the Kubala Kingdom, with Jean and Nino, and her life changes from that point onwards. As I was going through the Northern Kingdom page, if you go far back enough, you can actually see posts from Lady Safi. I believe she's still in the States at this point, but she is making posts talking about the Kubala Kingdom, King Atahenye, King of the North, the Messiah. Very similar to the video that I posted in part 6, that we see Asnat, the new current wife, declaring her love. I believe when Jean references that, Safi was willing to do whatever to become part of the Kubala Kingdom, I don't doubt that a lot of that was making these videos and posting them on the internet and sort of declaring that they are a part of the Kubala Kingdom. That was definitely something that they had to do, because I've seen it as a running theme with all of the wives. So Aaliyah comes to the UK and joins Nino and Jean at a really pivotal point, because they are right in the middle of a very public dispute with Durham Council, I believe. Their children were being put up for adoption, and Jean and Nino were very, very unhappy with this, and they were making it known. They were publicly protesting in the street pretty much every day. Jean was painting Jean is a very intense artist, so her artwork is very striking, I guess I can say. So during this era is when we see a lot of the sort of viral pictures of them that we know. We see Jean, putting black paint all over her face. And they were protesting in what they said, again, was their right as free worshippers. I don't believe it had any actual traditional ties to any culture. So Aaliyah joins them at this really pivotal point, and she just dives right in. She is there with them on the streets, protesting outside of Durham Council. She is wearing the sackcloth and ashes. She is dragging the chains through the streets, dragging the speakers through the streets. She's doing the interpretive dances. And then again, we get a lot more blog posts from Jean during this era. She really was spiraling. It's very sad. Her children were, at this point, it was going to be a closed adoption. So she was coming to terms and understanding that she actually wasn't going to see these children again. In and between these sort of protests. They're staying at the flat there that pretty much everybody knows. It's the one that everyone's like posting pictures of, where they've hung a lot of interesting things out the window, threatening people in the neighborhood, because it very much began to be that they were clashing with the people of the town that they were living in. Yeah. So sometimes they would go away with Lady Safi. Remember that stately manor that they used to go to? Yeah, they start frequenting there again, but this time with Lady Safi. And they stay there for a long time. Like, their stay was, I was like, how long are you guys going to be here? Again, swanning around the place, pretending that they are Moors of the Northern Kingdom, and that this entire hotel was their birthright. They were all over each other in the jacuzzi area. King Atahenye there with his 2 wives, one who is extremely young, mind you. So could you imagine what it looked like to the regular patrons of that hotel? This man and his wife in the jacuzzi with this extremely young girl. And she tried to wipe all those pictures, she tried to wipe those pictures from the internet. But when I tell you, I found some archives and I found some pictures, because they really were flaunting themselves around that hotel. And I was like, surely, how long can this go on? So a couple of months go by and we get the post that, to be honest, after seeing how they were getting on in that jacuzzi in those people's hotel, I was not surprised to hear that Lady Safi was pregnant. Jean was delighted. She was over the moon. She said that God had decided to open the womb of her handmaiden and bear her a child through her handmaiden to have a new heir to the kingdom of Kubala. I'm just going to read a few excerpts of Jean's blog so you guys can see how she talks about this baby. So, the king of Kubala shall hold his newborn son, his 8th child, and shall speak with his enemies, the British authorities at the gates. For no Edomite midwife shall touch this child, but a Hebrew midwife, and the king himself shall deliver the child. And I shall nurse this child, and carry him in my arms, and he shall comfort his older brother. For the God of Israel has remembered the house of Ophir, because my firstborn son, the watcher, cannot contain his joy. He knows his freedom is coming. She goes on to say, now listen, Durham County Council. I know you're reading this essay and I have downloaded it to give it to the judge of Newcastle Family Court. Now listen to me. This is one baby that the British social services will not touch. The delivery of this child will have absolutely nothing to do with you. You will not even know where and how the child will be delivered. Not only is my lord husband's wife American, meaning your British system will have nothing to do with where and how this baby is born, this baby will not have a British birth certificate. Yes, you read that right. This precious baby will not have a birth certificate at all. A human right that the world doesn't know is breached every day by your system. If the baby doesn't have a birth certificate, the baby is fully ours, and the government or state have no power or jurisdiction over our child. So as Lady Safi's pregnancy progresses, Jean and Nino, and Lady Safi as well, continue their very public dispute with the Durham County Council and with the Newcastle Family Court Services as well. Jean posts a series of blog posts directly attacking social workers, foster carers involved in her children's case. They stage very public protests outside of the council offices, and to be honest, they are displaying some pretty antisocial behaviour. So Jean and Nino have a son together, and Jean became convinced that this son was going to be used as a blood sacrifice in the upcoming coronation of King Charles. She began to post about this on all of her social medias, her blog and her Facebook as well. It seems that the authorities took these accusations very seriously, because the police begin to show up outside of their apartment. They show up in the night, they show up in the morning. During this time, they're also having very public disputes with members of the public as well. So once again, the situation in this house was spiraling completely out of control. And again, it all comes to a head one specific night.